if that little bit more money means that my books are going to come back quicker, then hallelujah.
Hey there, comic book friends and fiends. It's Rob in front of the Great Wall of Comics. And with me, some incredible members of the community, Mr. DJ Linx, Mark Legion of Comics, and Mike Beckerman, all here to talk about, and I'm pointing in the wrong direction because I'm pointing where they are on my screen, but let's just bring it all in, guys. Big hug. Big hug. Yeah, all right. Yeah, all encompassing world hug. There we go. Guys, welcome to the show. Thank you for joining me today on Sidekicks Talk Comics as we talk about a man that you all profess to have an affinity for.
We profess that, yeah.
Yeah. I myself don't have much of an affinity for him. We'll discuss that today along with your guys' dissenting opinion, and maybe you'll teach me to love the Green Man, Gray Man, or yellow or red or black or whatever color he happens to be at that individual moment. But first, let's take a look at who we got here. We got, of course, been stacked up in queue waiting. White Tiger Cool Calm Collected. He's been waiting to check us out. He's some of his favorite members of the community talking about his favorite character.
Oh, wow.
Blue Hellions Comics, welcome. Thank you for coming on out. Mark is there and here. Look at that. Amazing. War Machine Punisher Comics. Of course, the man who's always there, Les Crucius, 1971. How you doing? I want to nominate Les Crucius for an LCS award for
I'll second that.
For like the biggest YouTube community YouTuber supporter. He's yeah. Well.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly second that.
Reggie
will probably win that too, but
and Brother John. Thank you very much.
They wrote in the same card of this show.
Yeah, they like coordinate their attack.
I love it.
One of them is going to flank us.
Oh, yeah, they're like velociraptors.
Every time you guys make me laugh, I was laid up on Sunday, hungover, and every time you guys make me laugh, I'm like having extreme chest pain. So continue.
Well, guys, so the Incredible Hulk, he's been around a little while in the Marvel Inception world and everything. I myself, I'm going to set the level set here for everybody who's watching and for you guys here. I wouldn't consider myself a Hulk fan. I'm not a Hulk hater. I'm just kind of ambivalent towards him. I grew up watching, obviously, the Lou Ferrigno Incredible Hulk. Loved it as a kid, right? I refuse to go back and rewatch it today for fear that my rose-tinted glasses may have broken and I won't like it like I loved it back then, right? Like so many other shows from my childhood that I loved that upon re-examination later on as an adult, I go, why?
Still good.
Yeah, it's holds up, man.
Good.
I think that show was story first, It was a story about people, about individuals. The highlight of that was not the monster, that was the problem with the resolution. It was always the obstacle.
It was that and Bill Bixby's acting, phenomenal. Phenomenal.
Plus, you got to congratulate him. How many steps did that guy put in on that show? Just always walking. It's always walking.
He roams the earth.
One of the the ending was just always
so
always so good.
So sad. That's the theme song that played in my head as my dad walked away from me when I was 5 years old, and he never returned.
When he went out to go get cigarettes.
Yeah, get scratchers.
Scratchers. He wasn't.
We can only assume he won.
So,
and
anyway, so I
Daredevil
don't.
and Thor were in one of the movies. I remember that one.
So I mean, I've watched the movies, obviously, including the Ang Lee and all the other stuff and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Let's start off for somebody like me who has only had that content of the Hulk, other than an occasional pop-up in another comic where he's an ancillary background character, really, or a crossover event. What am I missing out on with the Incredible Hulk? What am I not getting that is in the comics or what's in the comics that's
why are we drawn to it and you're not?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I want to get into why you guys are each drawn to it, but also what's different. What would you characterize? Let's say first and foremost, the difference from the comic book Incredible Hulk. It could be today's version or the evolution, etc., versus the TV movie Hulk. DJ, why don't you take this one first?
Well, I think what you're gonna get if you're not a Hulk fan, and if I'm trying to put you onto the Hulk, is that he's not a superhero per se. He's a guy that just wants to be left alone. He has anger issues. He wants to deal with it, and he wants to deal with it in solitude. So if you're a superhero guy and you want something that isn't so necessarily straight arrow superhero stuff, this might be for you.
Mark?
Yeah, I don't even know. I don't know how to answer that. Like, what about it should you like that you don't like? I don't know.
Or what's different? Is there anything different about the Hulk in the comics versus the TV show and the movies? There, Mike, go ahead first. We'll let Mark think.
Yeah.
Okay, so for me, what drew me to the character was when I found it. So I know my first issue I bought off the rack was 376, which would have been late 1990. But before that, I had read my first exposure to any comic books was I got a book at the public library that was collected works of the early days of Marvel. And it had that FF 25 and 26 that then crossed over with Avengers, where Hulk battled Thing, epic battle. I liked Hulk there, but when I jumped into 376, one issue before he becomes New Hulk, I loved this idea of this fractured mind. And the more I read about Hulk, previous issues as I went back, as a kid reading comic books at a time when that wasn't the popular thing to do, at least in my town, I got picked on a lot. I was the kid bringing Ninja Turtles to school at the age of 11, a little older than you'd want them to be. I was reading comic books in class and I got beat up a lot. And the idea of, the weakling becoming the brute appealed to me. I wanted to see the weakling get his day, and I think that's what Hulk tapped into, the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde of it all.
So that would be my answer of why I'm into it. But what you're missing out on, comics versus the movies, is just extrapolating on what we've seen. Really, there's been some good examples of Hulk in film. There really have. The Incredible Hulk was a good example. It might not have been the greatest movie or anything, but it was a great example of him, at least on that level. If you just keep adding more and more to that, more and more stories, you eventually get to the point with bigger monsters, badder monsters, the whole issues at home and everything. It's a very personal character. There's a lot that you can relate to him as the story goes on and on that is very unique to him. Like how DJ touched on, wanting to be alone, being afraid of hurting other people. There's all kind of areas of your life. Not saying you're this person, but there's so many experiences you go through that you can easily relate to a lot of what makes him who he is.
So what makes him different than Mr. Jekyll and Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde?
Well, all he really is an amalgam of Frankenstein and Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. That's what he is. That's what he's meant to be. Just, I love Stan Lee to death, but there's nothing original that came out of that man's head. Not one single time, ever. But he just took existing things and how can I repackage it and make it enjoyable in today's market? And that's what it is. And that's one thing that's so cool about it is that Jekyll Hyde thing. Agreed. The little guy being powerful and everything. That's, I was always attracted to that as well. I'm a little guy, always have been. My dad's 6'4", and I'm over here 5'10" at my peak. There's just always something appealing about that.
You guys need to have a conversation.
DJ, anything else on there?
No, I mean the biggest difference is back to your original question from the comics and the movies. They're just different representations of the same characters. So depending on the story arc, you're gonna get one version of the Hulk, how we went from just Brute Hulk, then Professor Hulk, and Immortal Hulk. You got Child Hulk and a whole bunch of different versions. And then in the movies, you get, I guess, socially acceptable versions of those story characters.
That's what I wanted to touch on as I'm looking at this stuff. It's so we have, for you guys just kind of just free form kind of discuss here. I want to understand more about these different versions of the Hulk that seem to exist. And I liked this concept that Mike brought up, the fractured mind, the multiple personalities, basically, that it's not just that he's got anger issues. It's that Dr. Banner is dealing essentially with multi-personality disorder, with all these different versions of the Hulk that exist within him.
Yeah, brought on by the abuse of his dad.
Yeah, not by the gamma. That was an existing condition that he has, whether he ever got gammaed or not. That's
which got brought in by the wonderful Bill Mantlo.
Yeah, I know. I'm about to cry right now. Such good. How dare you rob Fat Sacks of Comics for not liking the Hulk?
I didn't say I didn't like the Hulk. I said I don't understand or don't know the Hulk.
I'm just teasing you.
I know, and that's why I got you guys here to.
That's something that's kind of unique.
Bring me to the green side of the Force.
And that's something that's really unique to it as well. They got experimented with heavily in Immortal Hulk, like really heavily, to a level of detail that hasn't been done before. Like, it's been talked about, it's been touched on, it's been used, but Al Ewing really made this 50 issue run about that. Like, what does it really mean to have all these personalities living inside of you, all with this power and ability? How does it affect you? And not just on the outside with your experience with the world, how does it affect you internally in your mind? Yeah. How do you organize that? How do you categorize that? Again, that's been shown before and teased before, like with like compartmentalizing his brain. But a great thing, like for example, like there's a one-shot crossover for Absolute Carnage. It didn't affect the Carnage stuff, but a symbiote had gotten on Hulk, and the whole issue took place in like a microsecond. And during that microsecond, you're inside of Hulk's brain the whole time, and all of these
like a council of them.
Yeah, they all come out of their rooms and come and sit down at the table together, and they start talking. Are we going to allow this thing to bond with us?
There was two or three absentee or abstained votes.
Yeah,
the measure did not pass.
But it was cool, like just seeing how he functions like that. And you don't have other heroes that really deal with like.
So he was following Robert's Rules of Order, Dr. Robert Bruce Banner.
They kind of were. Which at some point I hope we talk about the fact that Stan screwed up his name, and we
just brought it up, right? Yeah, Bob Banner. Bobby
Banner.
We know that Stan Lee has an affinity for the initials having a match. Even Bruce Banner's dad has matching initials, right? And so I guess the story goes at some point, as I understand it, correct me if I'm wrong, at one point he referred to him as Bob Banner. And so then they had to retcon or basically say that his name is, his full name is Robert Bruce Banner.
One of the early no prizes.
The hard shift was with the show. They didn't want to call him Bruce in the show on television in that time era. That was the shift. That's like the official shift happened when the show canoned his name as not Bruce.
Well, but in the show, wasn't he David Banner?
Yeah.
So that has nothing to do with Robert.
Yeah, they're not related.
Yeah, they're distant relatives.
No.
They're all, or one's Earth 616, and others Earth whatever or other.
Alliteration.
So help me understand. So I understand. We get some different versions of the Hulk. Now, there's some other variants of the Hulk that is Red Hulk, and I mean, is that? But that it is or it isn't Bruce? I don't know.
Yeah, no. So the Red Hulk is General Thunderbolt Ross. But just going back real quick to the Hulk, and then in his brain, there are like hundreds of different versions of the Hulk, but they're like the main three. Then you have Demon Hulk, and was it the first time they brought that up? Was it in Dogs of War where they showed like all the different versions of the Hulk? There were like Clown Hulks and all kinds of shit. They just didn't have as much power.
Doc Green and Professor Hulk and Savage Hulk and
what's future Imperfect Hulk's name, Mark?
That'd be Maestro.
Thank you. I wanted to make sure it got pronounced correctly.
Yeah, so those Hulks were cool, and then it's like the three like main leading child Professor Hulk, let's say, and Joe Fixit. But then back to what you were saying, Rob, like Red Hulk, that's Thunderbolt Ross. That's his version of the Hulk. I know there was a Yellow Hulk at one time. I have no idea who the hell that was. And I don't know if there was a Smurf Hulk.
Smurf Hulk.
Blue Hulk.
There you go. So his sidekicks, help me out with this. Now,
There
we go.
Just,
There's that smile.
did all of these guys at some point get like powers or something? Or
so, are you talking about the greatest everyman in the Marvel universe, Rick Jones?
well, so I know. Okay, so Rick Jones. I know Rick Jones. I know Rick Jones, and then Doc Sampson and whatever else. I mean, I don't know. I really am just like I read like I skimmed a Wikipedia article to understand.
Start with Rick.
All right, you do that. Start with Rick.
So
Who
Rick
is Rick?
is the reason why there is a Hulk, and his guilt causes him to become the Hulk's de facto sidekick. And because in the first issue of Hulk, he saves Rick Jones because Rick was a greaser kid that was there on a dare, so that
Playing
the
a
guys
harmonica.
didn't think he was chicken. Yeah, playing harmonica, being cool. And Bruce gets him out of there, takes the gamma blast. Rick's in a trench. Rick's got survivor's guilt. Back then, the Hulk only became the Hulk at night. Rick goes on to form the Avengers.
Just a little thing.
With the Youth Brigade. Probably the last time ham radios were relevant. They used a series of ham radios to form the Avengers.
Really?
Yeah, whatever happened to the Youth Brigade?
They grew up.
They can become new warriors.
Hey, now they weren't that cool. But Rick, let's see if I get this right without looking at anything. Rick has been sidekick to Hulk, Captain America, Captain Marvel, the original Marvel, Rom the Space Knight, back to Hulk with Clay Quartermain and Doc Sampson in a VW bus. Wow. Would get crowded.
Genesis.
Oh, doesn't he become A-Bomb first?
Not before Legacy.
No, not before Legacy. Okay.
Mm-mm.
Yeah. And then what was that foundation he made that had Darkhawk and Powerhouse in it? They were in Runaways. They tried to save the Runaways. I don't know. I'm off on the rail now. DJ Linx, bail me out.
You're taking me to school, brother. Like I'm soaking this all up. You're taking me to school.
You're like 10 inches in the annals of comic history right now.
Is Rick just an average kid who just hangs out with all these superpowered folk? And
we find out he's not during the Kree Skrull War. He ends the war. He takes out the Supreme Intelligence with that. What was that beam that came out of his head? Mark, help me out. Guys, come on.
The beam that came out of his head.
Chat.
I'm only can assume that it's going to be called a unibeam, a zeta beam. It's going to be called something like that.
I'm too old. I haven't read this stuff in years.
So Rick Jones isn't just normal. Got it.
No, I'm Rick Jones, bitch.
Or did he just temporarily have some powers or something? I don't know.
Last time we saw him, like currently, he's a gamma mutate at this point, like a dead one at that.
Yeah. But then, he came back after A-Bomb and during, what crap-ass
War of
event.
the Hulks?
No, Standoff that led into, it was a really awful event. Civil War II. Yeah. He was back alive, and after being A-Bomb, he gained a power. And they even retconned it to, like, his Youth Brigade days where he, I formed the Avengers using the social media of our time and ham radios, really. So he becomes like some internet freaking Neo, like where he can control the internet with his mind. I don't know. It's really bad.
All right. Well, we know that every once in a while these characters,
This episode of Sidekicks brought to you by Ham Radios.
I see Sidekicks always. I mean, any ancillary characters sometimes only go on these different trendies, but universally overall, he's his sidekick.
Mhm.
But and for most in the early days, I mean, so the most of it, he was just a kid. Yep.
Yeah.
Acting like kind of like as a conscience or way to calm him down or something. I'm guessing.
He was not per se.
Or-
He got knocked around by him a lot.
Yeah.
He was so the Hulk was an abusive friend.
He was his Robin. He was the representation of the reader in the book. That's all he was. So whatever he had to be in that issue, that's what he was. If he's going to go get Banner and bail him out of something, if he's going to run behind the Hulk and wait for him to calm down, you know what I'm saying? Just
okay, he's a device.
Yeah,
okay. So he's a writer's device. Okay, great. So who's Doc Sampson?
that's Dr. Leonard Sampson, the
I'll
psychologist
let Mark take this.
that worked with him, who ends up getting juiced up a little bit in Hulk 141, makes his first appearance as Doc Sampson and becomes a cool side character. You know, unfortunately, one of those ones you roll out and start him strong, and after they get beat one time, that's what he is. He's a punching bag in the Hulk family at this point.
Yeah, definitely. He has a beautiful head of hair.
He does. Yeah, he's a really cool character. I've always liked him. Great design. Looks like Flash Gordon and the Joker had a baby.
Yeah, no,
it's creepy in his origin though. Like he stole Bruce's power.
Is that more creepy than Bruce just putting his fluids in his cousin to power her up?
Jesus Christ.
True.
Blood transfusion.
Yeah, but that was to save
Thanks
her
for
life.
specifying, Rob.
Leonard wasn't trying to save his life. He just thought he was
wanted
so
the power.
great of a mind that he should have the perfect body too to match it. He's a creep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, back to Mark's point. Yeah, Doc Sampson is one of those guys that is brought in, like if you compare it to like wrestling terms, brought in main event, and then once he loses, he's back down mid card.
He's a jobber, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Jobber for life. Great. Pin me, pay me. Betty Ross.
Betty. Betty. That's just his main squeeze.
That's his Lois.
Yeah,
That's his
all.
kryptonite.
Who was dating her? Who's
General Thunderbolt Ross's daughter.
right?
So you have that conflict there. Monster wants to date.
She
the
briefly
daughter.
married Glenn Talbot.
Fucking Glenn. I hate that guy.
He's a dick.
I didn't like him in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. on the TV show.
He was in the first Hulk movie, the Ang Lee Hulk movie. He was the D-bag that was trying to kidnap and
The guy with the
Fraud
piercing blue eyes.
Josh Lucas.
God, doesn't Rick tell Glenn that Bruce is the Hulk too? What a dick.
Oh, my justice.
All right. So, DJ, if you were to recommend a key story for somebody to want to get into the Hulk, what arc or story would you recommend?
This is funny.
And a little bit of why.
No, I loved Immortal Hulk. So getting back into comics, when I joined the community, COVID and all that stuff, I was just like, yo, what is the Hulk up to? Read the Immortal Hulk. I loved it from issue 1 all the way to 50. It is mind-blowing. It is the most captivating, emotional story that I've ever read. I think I've cried like 3 times during the whole arc reading that. I can't recommend that run enough. Now, Back in the Planet Hulk is dope too, but for some reason, I just think the weight of what's going on in Immortal Hulk, it's what grabs me. So similar to my movie going experiences and what I enjoy like heavy drama, heavy cinema, heavy acting, and that's what I got in Immortal Hulk. Besides that, I loved when he turned Professor Hulk. So 377 all the way up until like 390 something. There was Professor Hulk, and they introduced Pantheon, and it was just like wild.
Right. So one story.
Oh, my bad. Sorry, I forgot. This is Rob Fastex, and there's rules. I apologize. Immortal Hulk.
No. We'll get to a little more broad
50.
thing. I just want to give each. I don't want you to take everything. These guys go, well, DJ said this,
No one's gonna say 377.
No, hell no.
It's regarded as being trash.
Is this with the pink
Go
flippers
ahead,
or without
Mike.
the pink flippers, DJ?
377, the beginning of the Pantheon run. I'm gonna say that as mark as possible. No, I love the Peter David's 12 years on the Hulk. I love his puns. I love his cheesy humor. I liked that Rick found his mom, and then she ended up being a serial killer. He marries Marlowe, who was the ex of Joe Fixit, which is the Gray Hulk. How would you like to follow that guy? I mean, poor Rick, dude.
Depends on where we're going.
Like, hot dog down the hallway, boom.
Strippers and cocaine all day.
Jesus Christ.
But yeah, man. I liked that, but yeah, Planet Hulk would probably be my number 2.
Yeah, Planet Hulk was awesome.
Mark?
So I'm going to answer this question to you directly, not to the general audience. What would I recommend to you to pick up? And this might be a little, I don't know, unpopular, but it's what was it, Bruce Jones's run, The Return of the Monster?
Okay.
When Bruce Jones started his run on Hulk with Hulk 1. And this was like, this was in my days like younger to mid-teenagers, and I was trade reading. I'd go to Borders, and we'd go to Borders at least once or twice a month. Pops is in the chat. He knows I would grab the trade, and half the time I would kill it before we even made it home. But that's how I would keep up with Hulk, is in trade, you know. And what he did in his run was, it's the TV show. It's Bruce, like in the previous run, he thought that he had killed a kid. So he was just completely removing himself from reality, from society, and he was walking, he was traveling. So each story arc was like the troubles and stuff that was going on in that area he was in. Like you kind of set the stage in that first few issues, and then the very first thing you do, like a whole few issues, like probably a whole trade, was a hold up in a convenience store. It was like a shorter trade and everything, and those cool scenes. I think it was the first time you saw like someone hold a gun to Bruce's head in a car and pull the trigger. And when the gun dust went away, Hulk's sitting there holding the bullet in his mouth and just spits it out. You know, like there's so much iconic Hulk stuff that you would recognize that you don't even realize it came from this run. Like an Incredible Hulk with Ed Norton, that shot when he's holding the 2 pieces of broken tank and he's shooting the grenade launcher at him and he's blocking it and he just spreads it apart and growls. That's the cover of Split Decision. It's like volume 4 or 5. You know, this is such an iconic run that gets looked over so much, but it's when Abomination came back, and it was nuts. It was a phenomenal run. And it was very much the TV show expanded, like, you know, add the comic bookiness to it, you know, but the traveling and the little adventures. You meet characters in this town and we're going to leave them here and you're just going to travel with the Hulk. It was great.
Nice.
Cool. Okay. So aside from Donnie Cates, his current
We're
run,
starting shit now.
what would be your low point in the Hulk?
Don't have one, just Donnie Cates.
Fair enough. If Donnie Cates is your Nick Spencer, we got it. Okay.
Well, honestly, like for me, like my age, you know, it's hard to call it because like they just talked about their highlight runs are like from my earliest childhood. Like I was just barely alive for those moving forward. So there really hasn't been
because they don't exist anything that was prior to your birth.
No, I'm saying like when I read older stuff, I read it through the lenses of like it's older stuff. You know what I mean? I don't really have like a fair critique of it. Like I'm reading it today to bounce it off of other stuff. I don't criticize old books at all.
Yeah.
I think for me, my low point is anything like starting at like 430 up until that volume 2 ended, which is like 473, 75. Like I'm collecting them because I'm trying to complete the run, but all that shit is trash.
Yeah, the end of Peter David's run was what I was going to say, and that's what DJ just said. Peter David started off very strong, but he was spinning his wheels at the end, and he wasn't getting along with his editors, and he wasn't happy with where they were pushing him. So
Peter David?
It came out bad. I know people don't like him, but I love that dude.
Oh, I liked him on Spider-Man 2099 until
he gets a lot.
I loved Peter David on Spider-Man 2099 until he stopped getting along with his editors. It's
right. When he disagrees with an editor, I almost feel like he'll purposely tank a book because he's mad.
Great success, Peter David. Great success.
So, who is, in your opinion, for the Hulk, the ultimate foil?
Society at large.
And don't
By
say
foil,
Reynolds.
do you mean
In
villain?
comics or out of comics?
In the comics, who you talk? Who is for Spider-Man? It's Green Goblin.
Okay.
So right, so it's not
Old
Reynolds
big head.
rapper. So
Leader.
Yeah, old
so
big head.
pretty unanimous in that, huh? What makes him his great foil?
Because Abomination has had positive storylines, like where he during Infinity War he befriended that homeless sewer girl, and like Abomination at times has redeeming qualities.
And Mil Blanc, he is not a total piece of trash, you're saying?
He's just like 80%.
Yeah.
Leader's a jerk.
Yeah, Leader's a jerk, and it's the perfect foil because it's the brain to the Hulk's brawn.
Superman Lex kind of thing. And he's just nefarious. Like he has no other side motive. You know what I mean? It's just to one up, to be better than, to just, he doesn't, like he pointed out, like there's like heart with the Abomination. The Leader's just straightforward, power hungry.
Like Tyler. Tyler is the community's version of the Leader.
Yeah, he's got a big ass head.
He's tall though.
Sorry,
I am the Leader.
Tyler, just so we're clear here, the Hulk is not a Pokemon. I checked.
That we know of.
And all the Pokemon that I have, Hulk is not one.
Oh, snap.
You've turned him. Tyler's done turned him out.
Do you have any threes? Sorry, that's the only card game.
Go fish. Tyler sent those to me. They're giveaways for future SlabHubs.
Oh, nice. You pull a comic out, it's written on the backboard,
Yeah.
Pokemon.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's
I
fine.
figured they would be on the wall behind you.
No.
I see you did some adjustments up there, though.
All right, so we talked about some of the supporting characters, least favorite, best favorite. What else would you say as we're getting to the end of our time here? From a character, we haven't touched on a character. What do you think that I should know about the Hulk books, that or anybody who isn't reading the book or hasn't been a big reader of the Hulk books? What else should they know that we haven't talked about, that you think it makes this character appealing to you, to people, or that we're just all missing? I know we kind of talked about that a little bit, but anything else that you think is important that makes the Hulk awesome and not just totally awesome?
Yeah, I think for me, for me, it's just the complexity of the character. Like you're gonna get something different. You're gonna get something really, really deep. There's not a lot of surface level stuff until you get to, like we were talking about, those 400 and whatever issues to 475. But it's just the complexity that you get with the character and the depth that you get with the characters. It's not a lot of surface level stuff. Everything is deep. Everything means something. Everything has a purpose. Well, not everything. There's comic books, but once you read the Hulk, when you go to the supermarket and you walk past the produce aisle and you look at the cucumbers, you're going to want to run home and read the Hulk again.
Every time.
Okay. Mike, anything else from your side?
Just that I feel like everybody views the Hulk, well, not everybody, but people who don't give the Hulk a chance that I've met over the years like to be like, oh, one-dimensional. It's just Hulk smash. Hulk gets mad. Hulk wrecks a city and moves on to the next place. But the Hulk's had a wide history and a great string of a variety of creators that brought different things, I mean, in the 70s, you had Jim Wilson was his sidekick, and they they tackled social issues. Hulk identified with Jim Wilson because, Jim had been stereotyped as a black man in New York, and Hulk felt similar frustrations and found a kindred spirit in Jim Wilson because the government kept trying to hunt him down. This was during the Hulkbusters. But anyway, yeah, I mean, I don't think people realize how varied the history is. And if you want to get really into the wild stuff, yes, Immortal Hulk, go read it. It was wonderful.
Yeah. Even with the Immortal Hulk, Mike, you talked about social issues around the mid-20s thing there. And that's part of the maybe some of the issues where I was just like, oh man, I don't like my books reflecting what's going on in the political climate, but there was a big social thing going on there in the mid-20s.
So Blue Hellion asked, out of the Avengers, who do you think complements Hulk best, both in comics and the MCU? I'll go to Mike first on this one.
What Avenger? So I don't know. Hulk never really had a sustained run with the Avengers. I feel like if you're going to go power team, Defenders of Doctor Strange and Silver Surfer complemented Hulk well.
Yeah, that would be Doctor Strange out of them.
Yep.
All right, so I'm getting the sense that's a good universal, unanimous decision on that end.
Well, there's just not much to go with the Avengers.
We're talking about characters in general that complemented in the well. No one has done it as good since Sentry rolled in.
I agree with that.
Who?
And they weren't on a team together. You know who the Sentry is? Oh, Bob.
Oh, Sentry. I thought you said
Bob. We're back to comes full circle.
Sorry.
Oh, Bob.
Bob.
Well, the way that he was originally like an April Fool's thing inside of the like behind the scenes at Marvel that they brought into the books, and the whole thing with this character that shows up is nobody knows who he is.
Him.
Yeah, no one knows who he is at all, and he's the original hero of this universe kind of thing. And
the Hulk
remembers him. Bruce doesn't. The Hulk doesn't, and they're like, and he doesn't just remember him; he likes him. Like the Hulk is excited to see him. It's like Batman and Jarro. It's just this dynamic that shouldn't work on paper, but when it delivers, like, dude, this is great because he never has this. He's never had this feeling like he talked about, even slapped around Rick, you know what I mean? But with Sentry, it was just awesome. And then the way that they play into it with like World War Hulk, when that's who they have to bring in to stop him, to put him down. And Hulk's even like, you don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. Are we going to do this? And they do it. And it's awesome.
Fair enough.
All
right. Last kind of question here. So there's a Hulk family essentially, right? We have the Incredible Hulks. We have all these Hulks, whatever. So of them all, which is your favorite and why is it Hulk 2099, Mark?
It's definitely not Hulk 2099. I don't dislike him. He's just definitely not my favorite. You talking about outside of the Hulk, who would be my favorite?
Yeah, sure.
I don't know. I never really paid too much attention to the auxiliary characters like that. Like, who do I like? I think the only other one that I've ever actually followed on any level would be Doc Sampson. Like he's had a mini series here and there. I just got done reading the one from the 90s, that Fortune one that Ken Lashley even worked on some of the art with. I think I shared it with Becker when I was reading through all stuff. Like, that's really the only other character that's worth like keeping up with. The Red Hulk has some little bit of stuff here and there. When he went on the Red Hulk run, but it wasn't as like he was like a bad guy pretty much. He's not when he was a good guy. He's been a chump when he's been on the Avengers team, with the mustache and stuff. He's just pointless. So I'd have to go with Doc Sampson with all of his faults.
Mike,
does the Maestro count as an auxiliary Hulk?
He's a different version of the Hulk, right?
If you say his name right, it would count.
I can't. Will you do it for me? The
Maestro.
Thank you. So that
Mater D. Got it.
I just can't.
He's working
I can't bring myself to say.
He used to work at a really fine restaurant.
No, I just really like Future Imperfect. I hadn't had a lot of experience with like Elseworlds type stuff at that point, and I was a big fan and still am of George Perez. I like this.
Read of the week last week.
Fire.
Yeah, right.
Without a doubt.
Literally, Jim Hammond came back. Man, I'm such a sucker for like whatever I read in 1990. I'm still stumping for today. So I like Jim Hammond because he was on the West Coast Avengers.
DJ? For me, probably Doc Sampson, but the version that we got at the end of Immortal Hulk into Gamma Flight, which is just like an amalgamation of Doc Sampson combined with Sasquatch from Alpha Flight. So that was pretty dope. Louis brought up a great point about the Hulk in Old Man Logan, where the Hulk was the villain and his inbred children were like
He's big into incest,
Yeah.
like Old Testament Hulk.
Cannibals.
That was badass. That was badass.
All right. Well, we're on overtime here. There's so much more I don't know still about the Hulk, but at least you guys gave me some insight into where he's going, what's going on there, some reads potential to go take a look at.
Boldly going where no hero's gone before.
Hey, big guy, sun's getting real low.
We didn't even speak about Jarella.
I will have to come back and circle back on the Hulk another time.
Dad made a comment early on.
Oh, did he?
So, real quick, guys, DJ, what you got coming up this week on your show, on your channel?
Well, thank you, sir. On Friday night, 9 p.m. in the mix, the 2K sub celebration. It is going to be wild, giving out a lot of prizes. You want to be there. You have to be there. Like, I don't know how many prizes we got, but let's just say 15. 14 out of the 15 are for people that are going to be in the chat. But it's going to be crazy. It's going to be crazy.
That's incredible. Mike, I know your channel is bumping.
It is up to 7 subscribers. No content.
I'm sorry.
This week is going to be a pretty big week. I'm going to buy some comics tomorrow, and I have plans to buy a hat.
Oh. And you might, it's sometime this week. You might even take a nap.
Yeah, yep.
In that cap.
So big stuff going on in my world.
Phenomenal.
Hat.
Oh my God,
Mark, what's up on the LOC?
Oh man, video tomorrow, but community hangout on Friday. Monkey's birthday this weekend, and then just Friday on DJ Linx is over there celebrating this man's rise to fame.
Our rise to fame.
Remind me to wear my tight pants for that, Mark.
Your boner pants.
We look forward to you.
They want to see a hat unboxing.
Hat unboxing.
Oh my God, that'll be amazing.
Going to the haberdashery for a hat.
Let's get a poll. Let's get a poll going. What kind of hat should I buy?
Well, I want you in one of those newsy hats.
No, I mean I just said I had 10 plans to buy a hat. I didn't know if the hat was actually going to happen this week.
Becker's living his best life.
Hannah,
thanks for coming. We're signing off here, but please, by all means, check it out on the rewind. Everybody, thanks for coming out. Join us. Sidekicks Comics is first and third Tuesday of the month. We'll be on again March 1st. We'll be discussing Superman as we switch over to the DC side. Mark will be back on that panel, small time collectibles, and I'm drawing a blank off the top of my head who my third panelist is.
It's Superman. Exactly.
No, I feel real bad now. I didn't look it up ahead of time, but be sure to set your calendar, hit that notification bell, and like and subscribe, everybody. And until next time, make sure that you collect whatever it is that you like and don't listen to what anybody else tells you, including myself, because I'm just a fat man with a fat stack of comics and a fat opinion. Thanks for watching.